Good afternoon. Welcome to the May 1st, 2024 formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. We'll begin with an invocation from Police Chaplain Harry Sexton.
Please join me. Our Father, today we pray the mighty prayer of Moses, your servant and prophet, found in the book of Psalms. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Father, however long this current season may be, use it to cultivate in us a heart of wisdom that will help us to serve you well now and whatever the future brings. Lord, your word further says in the book of Psalms, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All who follow his precepts have good understanding. So help us to trust in you and follow your precepts in every twist and turn of this season. Grant us good understanding and guide our steps. So, Father, guide this council today. Grant wisdom and discernment that promotes peace to all. In the name of you, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. We'll ask Councilmember Galindo Elvira to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilman Galindo Elvira. Here. Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Vice Mayor Stark.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Mario Barajas and his team are with us to provide interpretation. Mario, would you say a few words of introduction?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Hello, my name is Mario Barajas, and together with my colleague Oscar Monroy, we will be serving as today's Spanish interpreters. We'll now take a moment to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience. Buenas tardes, yo soy Mario Barajas y voy a estar sirviendo junto con mi colega Oscar Monroy como intérpretes para la reunión de esta tarde. Queremos informarles brevemente de que si acaso van a estar dando un comentario público, se les pide que por favor hagan pausas, evitar distracciones de fondo y hablar con claridad. De esa manera podemos interpretarles de la mejor manera posible. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Would the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G 7249 through 7258, S 50782 through 50842, and resolutions 22195 through 22200.
Will the city attorney please explain the role of public comment?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before council in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing council. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. We'll turn to agenda item number 1, meeting minutes. Councilwoman Guardado, do you have a motion on item 1?
Yes, motion to approve item 1.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Councilwoman O'Brien, do you have a motion on item 2?
Move to approve item number 2.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Councilman Robinson, do you have a motion on item 3?
Move to approve item number 3.
Second.
Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Item 4 is boards and commissions. We have distinguished residents who help advise the city council and help us make decisions. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, thank you. I move to approve the mayor and city council boards and commission nominations.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Congratulations to our new commissioners. We will now conduct the swearing-in ceremony. Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
Francesca Miller. Julie Reed.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
and that I will faithfully and impartially
And that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the office of
discharge the duties of the office of Historic Preservation Commission, Planning Commission,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Thank you for stepping up to serve your community yet again. Congratulations. If you'd please go behind, the council would love to thank you. Congratulations to our new commissioners, but longtime public servants. The City Council provides an advisory role on liquor license to the state of Arizona. We'll move to that portion of the agenda now. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve items 5 through 18, except item 18.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Item 18 is in Councilwoman Guardado's district. I will turn to her to introduce the item. If you have any comments, we do have Officer Chester here to provide testimony. Would you like to hear that before?
Yes, we should hear testimony first.
Perfect. We will turn to Officer Chester to provide us an update on this item, which is related to a dollar store.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Kristen Lacayer Benavides with City Clerk. Also here today is Officer Samantha Chester with the Phoenix Police Department. This request is for a new Series 10 liquor license for a convenience store. This location was not previously licensed for liquor sales and does not have an interim permit. The 60-day limit for processing this application is May 11th, 2024. 3 letters protesting the issuance of this license have been received and are on file in the office of the city clerk. Staff recommends disapproval of this application based on a police department recommendation of disapproval and the neighborhood protests. Officer Chester again is here with me to provide a report for the police department.
Thank you all for allowing me to be here today to speak on this matter. My recommendation of denial of Mr. Chad Hawkins from obtaining a Series 10 liquor license at the Dollar General store located at 2650 West Glendale Avenue is based off of the following facts that I discovered throughout the course of my investigation after receiving the liquor application. These include errors and insufficient completion of Mr. Hawkins' state and city questionnaires, violence on the property and code enforcement issues, concerning statements made during the interview with the store manager of Dollar General, and sufficient liquor licenses in the area to meet the need and convenience of the community. Regarding the state questionnaire, After receiving the liquor application, I conducted a preliminary review and found contradicting errors between the state questionnaire and Mr. Hawkins' responses when questioned. On question number 12, Mr. Hawkins indicated he would be the controlling person who would be physically present and managing the day-to-day operation of the licensed premise. However, during my interview with Mr. Hawkins, he indicated he would not be managing the day-to-day operations because he is responsible for many other Dollar General stores in the area. He advised he's only required to visit the store every 45 days, but tries to come in every 2 weeks to meet with the store manager, Claire DeJesus. It should be noted, Ms. DeJesus was not listed as a manager for the liquor license, despite Mr. Hawkins stating she was the manager in charge of the day-to-day operations. Furthermore, Mr. Hawkins said, if he was being honest, he did not fill out most of this application. Instead, his company filled it out for him and told him to apply for the liquor license. Regarding the city questionnaire, there were also errors on this. On question number 8 and question number 9 in particular. Question number 8 asks the applicant to list anyone having ownership interest in the business or in the profits of the business. Question number 9 on the city questionnaire asks the applicant how much was paid for the business, including startup costs and the liquor license. Neither of these questions should ever be left blank. Every business has ownership or profit in a business, and everyone must pay something, even if it's just fees. Mr. Hawkins indicated not applicable as his responses to both questions. In regard to calls for service to the police department, a record check of the calls for service at this location was completed for a 1-year time span from the inception of the store on March 3rd of 2023 to March 3rd of 2024. Within that time frame, there have been 217 calls for service, 37 incident reports by police, and 10 arrests made. Of these calls, 4 of them are violent in nature, indicating an act of violence occurred on the property. 2 examples of these are as follows. On January 20th, 2024, an assault report was completed where the manager, Ms. DeJesus, was assaulted. She asked an individual to leave the property, was then assaulted by him when he hit her and spit on her. On February 23rd of 2024, a strong-armed robbery occurred. An elderly gentleman in a wheelchair was approached by 2 individuals and was forcefully robbed of his personal items. Having a liquor license at this location will only exacerbate these above-mentioned issues. In regards to code enforcement violations observed, on April 4th of this year, I went to the store to meet with the store manager. Upon my arrival, there were debris and trash scattered throughout the property and the parking lot. After inquiring with Neighborhood Services Department, I discovered Dollar General was previously cited for blight issues in March of 2021 due to failure to control trash and graffiti. Due to the additional blight issues I observed, Neighborhood Services initiated and opened a new case on my behalf. These blight conditions encourage unhoused people to camp next to and at these locations. This is evidenced by the calls for service from March 3rd of 23 to March 3rd of 24. In this time frame, 80 calls for service were placed for trespassing. In regards to my interview with the store manager, Claire DeJesus, after observing the blight conditions on the property, I went inside and met with her. She indicated she has been the manager there since the inception of the store on March 3rd of 23. She outright stated to me she does not want the store to start selling liquor because she would have more problems than she has now with theft and shoplifting. And according to the diagram provided in the liquor application from Dollar General, they indicated they would have alcohol right near the front door with no point of sale in between the front door and the alcohol. I asked her if they had security to help mitigate these issues, and she said they did not. Furthermore, with regard to the staffing at the location, she said that they do have 4 managers and 3 sales associates on staff, but due to budgeting issues, Dollar General has directed her that they only want 1 employee working at a time. This can cause safety concerns for her and her staff. Some of her employees also told her they will quit if they get a liquor license due to the issues it will bring to the store. Furthermore, I asked Ms. DeJesus how often she meets with Mr. Hawkins since he is the one applying for this license. She said she had not seen him in 63 days. She further indicated he does not come into the store every 45 days, let alone every 2 weeks. And lastly, regarding other liquor licenses in the area. The public convenience and the best interest of the community would not be served by the issuance of this liquor license. 4 other businesses near the Dollar General currently hold liquor licenses, and that's the 7-Eleven gas station, Circle K, La Constantita, and Ain't Nick's Tavern. Due to the aforementioned factors, in accordance with Arizona Revised Statute 4-203A, the applicant is not capable, qualified, or reliable to own and operate a liquor license within the city of Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. With this report, I move disapproval of item 18 based on Officer Chester's recommendation for disapproval in neighborhood protest.
Second. Okay. Any additional comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira. Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark. Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion related to the schedule of the meeting and suspension of the rules?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and change the order of business to take item 50, last on the formal meeting agenda, prior to citizen comments.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Item 50 will be the final item before citizen comment. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business planning and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
And so we did the motion on suspension of the rules, right?
Yes, Mayor. We are now on the omnibus motion. Thank you.
Cool. Vice Mayor, let's see. We have been changing whether or not a couple items needed to be in the omnibus, so why don't you do a more detailed motion, if you don't mind, for the omnibus?
I'm just trying to get clarification. I know we had an item, I'm sorry, I was actually talking to Ginger. I know that Councilwoman Pastor had a conflict on 39, but you said that she dropped off, but I see her name, so should I? She's not on, okay. I'm ready to make a motion now. Now, I apologize for that disruption there. Motion to approve items 19 through 113, except the following. Items 26 through 31, 50, 66, 75, 81, 109, and 110, noting that item 49 is requested to be withdrawn, item 50 is as revised, item 99 is as revised, items 111 and 112 are requested to be continued to May 15th, 2024. Item 113 is requested to be continued to May 29th, 2024, and excluding these additional items for virtual public comment, item 81. And can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comment?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, no other items. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira. Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
And I apologize again. Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Wonderful. Just for background for people watching, Councilwoman Pastor has a relationship with the community college, and so there was an item related to the community college which she could not vote on, but since she is not here, it was in the omnibus. As part of our labor relations process, we have memorandum of our understandings with different groups, and we host public hearings for the public to comment. We will now have a series of those hearings. Item 26 is the memorandum of understanding between the City of Phoenix and LIUNA Local 777, Unit 1. We'll open the public hearing. We do not have any members of the public to comment, so I will close the public hearing. Item 27 is the MOU between the City of Phoenix and ASME Local 2384, Unit 2. Open the public hearing. We do not have any members to public to comment. Close the public hearing. Item 28 is a public hearing between the City of Phoenix and ASME Local 2960, Unit 3. Open the public hearing. We do not have any members to comment. Close the public hearing. Item 29 is the public hearing between the City of Phoenix and PLE, Unit 4. Open the public hearing. We don't have any members of the public to comment. We'll close the public hearing. Item 30 is a public hearing between the City of Phoenix and Phoenix Firefighters Association, Local 493, Unit 5. Open the public hearing. Anyone want to guess what's going to happen? We have not any members of the public to comment. Close the public hearing. All right. But if you're having fun with public hearings, we have more. Item 31 is related to the local alternative expenditure limit for the November 5th, 2025 ballot. Open the public hearing. We do not have any members of the public to comment. Close the public hearing. All right. Next up is item 50, which is, thank you, 66, which is a public hearing. And resolution to amend the downtown EMSD boundaries to add additional parcels. We'll open the public hearing. We have someone to comment available if necessary. We're good? Definitely is good. We will close the public hearing. And this one, we actually take a vote, Vice Mayor.
I will move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira. Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark. Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Item 75 is not a public hearing. It is a donation from the Phoenix Police Foundation for the Wellness Center, Gym, and Police Memorial Wall. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I just wanted to take a few moments to publicly thank the Phoenix Police Foundation for their continued commitment to supporting the needs of our community and for honoring our officers, whether it's in the form of the annual honor run or this donation to a police memorial for the new headquarters, as well as a wellness center for the well-being of all of our officers. Most recently, they helped to fund the renovations to the new Family Advocacy Center, where victims of sexual assault will now be able to be in a warm and more comforting environment as opposed to sitting, feeling like they might be in a fishbowl. I'm so incredibly thankful to Tim Thomas for his continued leadership and stewardship over the Phoenix Police Foundation, and I'm so grateful that they are supporting us and the police department. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Any additional comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira. Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Great. Item 81 is a contract for legal services with Steptoe and Johnson LLP. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve item 81.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We do have a public comment. I will turn to Daryl.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Daryl Kriplin, and I serve as the president of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. I'm here to express our vehement opposition to continuing the contract with Steptoe and Johnson, and specifically Attorney Michael Bromwich. Michael was brought in to assist the city with the DOJ investigation. As we continue to navigate this process, Steptoe was awarded additional money several months ago to extend the contract through June 30th of 2024. Today, there is another request to extend the Steptoe contract through June 30th of 2025 with an option through June 30th of 2026 at an additional $2 million. All while item number 80 on the agenda was to enter into a new contract with Denton's US to provide legal services related to the DOJ investigation moving forward. Why would the city need to continue to retain Steptoe and Michael Bromwich for an additional $2 million, especially since Michael Bromwich and 3 other Steptoe attorneys are being deputized as special assistant county attorneys by Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty in Minnesota to serve as the prosecution team in a trial of a Minnesota state trooper? That county attorney specifically said that these former federal prosecutors will be singularly focused on this case while the rest of her team continues critical work of prosecuting other serious cases. And the next scheduled hearing for that case is May 15th. I question what benefit the city of Phoenix would have by continuing this contract with Steptoe and Johnson, and specifically Michael Bromwich. This is fiscally irresponsible, and that money should be reallocated to help offset the huge loss of state tax revenue and the city is going to experience in the foreseeable future. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Ender is next. Okay, and Ann has signaled that support for the previous testimony. Perfect. So for those who could not hear, Ann Ender agrees with the previous testimony and adds support for it. Comments, Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. So I'm going to vote against this item. I was well pleased with what we did with item 80. I've known one of those attorneys for many years, and I think they'll do an excellent job. I do see, frankly, unlike Daryl, I do see the need for maybe a second set of eyes. I just don't want it to be this set of eyes. I won't belabor it. You guys have heard my thoughts in the past about this particular subject. I just simply cannot find it in me to support the tenure of this particular law firm with us anymore. I do think we had other alternatives, and I thought we should have selected one of those alternatives. We didn't. But I do understand the continuity issue, but I think the Denton team would have done a fine job simply on their own, supported by maybe a couple other local attorneys. So I'm disappointed with the outcome of this. However, I do have a lot of confidence in the folks we selected with item 80. So thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask a couple of questions of our staff?
Please.
I would like to hear from our city attorney on whether or not we think the retention in the out-of-state case poses a conflict of interest for the city.
Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Hodge Washington. So as you're well aware, attorneys are bound by rules of ethics. And in this case, under those rules, I do not see that their representation is a violation of any rules of ethics, which would be perceived as a conflict of interest under the rules.
In the event that, is there anything in our contract with the offices of Steptoe and Johnson that prohibits us from terminating that relationship should a conflict arise?
Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Hodge Washington, no. If first of all, they would need to request a waiver if there was a specific conflict that arises, and that is outlined in the contract. Furthermore, we always have discretion to review the contract and to review their scope of representation with the city.
Thank you so much.
Councilwoman O'Brien, thank you.
Thank you. Julie, they're being deputized in just a couple of weeks and will, I would imagine, be quite busy with this trial. If for some reason they're unavailable, is that we could discontinue the contract for those reasons?
Mayor, members of council, Councilmember O'Brien, so if they were unavailable to represent the city at a time where we needed them, then certainly we could carry on further conversations with them about their scope of representation, and if needed, we could terminate the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira. Yes. Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
I want to explain my vote, Mayor.
You.
I'm going to support the motion because we still have the ability, if necessary, if a conflict does truly arise, to terminate the contract under those circumstances. I believe at this juncture it is presumptuous of us to presume that this trial may move forward. We know many times cases are resolved before an actual trial, and at this juncture, I just think that I respect the opinions and testimony that we've heard so far on the issue, but I think we are kind of putting the cart before the horse. No conflict of interest has actually arisen in this case, and we still retain the ability to terminate should one occur. So I'm going to support the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
O'Brien?
Mayor, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
I am going to support the motion as well because I think that it is important for us to have the STEPTO with us, given that they have been with us since the beginning. This has been going on for 2.5 years, and they've been with us every step of the way. I would prefer them to be a part of our team when we get our findings. So for that reason, I will be voting yes.
Robinson?
All right, Mayor, may I explain my vote?
Do.
As for pretty much the same reasons we've heard from some of my colleagues, I understand the importance of that continuity with STEPTO, but I'm going to be voting no. I just don't think this is the right thing to do, continue with them under a variety of circumstances. There are several things it's not appropriate for me to mention here, but my answer has to be no on this one.
Waring?
I think you just briefly explained my vote. They were our lead attorneys, and we chose to go a different direction. I think that speaks to how we feel things maybe have been going. So going forward, I am pleased that we're going to have new leadership on our legal team, and I look forward to working with them.
Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 6-2.
All right. We now go to the planning and zoning portion of our agenda. Items 109 and 110 are related items, both at the southwest corner of 52nd Street and McDowell. We will have one public hearing, but 2 individual votes. This is in District 6. Councilman Robinson, do we need a staff report before the public hearing?
Mayor, I don't believe a staff report is necessary now.
Great. Open the public hearing on 109 and 110. We do not have any members of the public to testify. So close the public hearing. Councilman, first 109.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to approve per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. 110, Councilman Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. It's been a very exciting meeting, and we move forward on that, as well as some historic preservation investment, some affordable housing grants, and more. Now we go to item 50. Do we have a motion? Oh, we need to read the title. Thank you.
Item 50 is for ordinance G 7258, an ordinance relating to the Office of Accountability and Transparency, amending Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-1 of the Phoenix City Code, Article 2, Sections 20-5 through 20-10 and 20-13, and repealing and deleting Sections 20-11 in its entirety, adding Article 3, Sections 20-14 through 20-17, and amending Article 4, Section 20-26.
Thank you. Now do we have a motion?
Mayor, thank you. I move to approve.
Second.
Wonderful. We have a motion and a second, and we do not have any public comment on this item. Okay. Council member comments.
Mayor?
Councilwoman O'Brien.
I have a friendly amendment to Section 20-14A1, the section regarding all voting members, that it would instead read,
Oh, thank you.
All voting members shall either reside or work in the city of Phoenix. Members must be at least 21 years of age. No current or former sworn law enforcement officer or individual who has filed a claim or lawsuit related to actions by the City of Phoenix Police Department is eligible to serve as a voting member of the board. Would the motioner and second be willing to take that as a friendly amendment?
Mayor, yes, I would be willing to accept this.
And Mayor, I'm fine as well.
Yeah, and if I could explain.
Please do.
Thank you. So I think that it's incredibly important that we continue to take steps forward to monitor and make our police department better. We know, we're all aware that this DOJ, we're in the middle of the DOJ investigation, an investigation which, as I said earlier, has been going on for 2.5 years. We still do not have an indication yet of when they may close their investigation and provide us with their findings. However, as we have done before, and as we continue to do, Phoenix is not waiting for the DOJ to finish their investigation to make reforms. Already we've added body-worn cameras to all of our officers, which is not something every law enforcement agency has in this country. We've invested in the community assistance program so that mental health professionals are able to respond to emergency calls related to mental health needs. We've created the Office of Accountability and Transparency to work with our police department to review policies and provide suggested changes with an outsider's perspective. The police department reformed our use of force policies and implemented new trainings across the department. Phoenix has a record of self-correcting, which is shown to be in alignment with many of the requests the DOJ has asked of previous communities as a result of their investigations. The vote today is yet another example of the city of Phoenix being proactive in self-policing, and another prime example to the Department of Justice that we do not need a costly consent decree and monitor to reform our police department. However, this particular part excludes all folks who have previous law enforcement experience, whether they are not a current law enforcement. I think that there is also a concern to provide balance to this, that we will exclude folks who might use this position to receive additional information on a claim or lawsuit, or who already have a personal agenda on the other side of the spectrum. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mayor. I voted against the original OAT. Two of the things that concerned me were its sort of overview and conducting investigations of the police department, but the state legislature took away that power. My concern now with OAT is primarily that we're paying the same bill I think we were originally tabbed with, which I think is $3.5 million a year, Jeff, unless you're going to correct it. But most of the time-intensive tasks that they would have been charged with, they no longer do. It would be as if the fire department no longer went on emergency calls and only fought fires, but we kept paying the same bill. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But, you know, I've said my piece, and apparently we're going to keep doing it. So, but we're paying $3.5 million for a lot less than was originally anticipated by those of you who were supportive. But in this case, with the Civilian Review Board, I do understand, I think it was Councilwoman O'Brien said, you know, we're in the middle of the Department of Justice investigation. I don't know if this would help mitigate their feelings about it at all. I suppose it wouldn't. But the OAT organization as a whole has been so neutered that I don't think it's going to be able to do any damage to the police department's effectiveness either. And a lot of other cities do have it. So I was undecided when I woke up this morning. I think I'm going to support it. Probably if the legislature hadn't done what they had done, might be a different story, but I will be supportive. Thank you, Mayor, for the time.
Thank you, Councilwoman, Vice Mayor, and then Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. I too am going to be supportive of this. I'm proud of our police department. I think they do good work, but we can always stand improvement. It doesn't matter what profession you are, we can always do with some improvement. And I also think this is a tool that we can use in a positive way. And in regards to the Department of Justice, I think we have stepped up and we're trying to address some of the issues that they're reviewing, and I think this is an important step. I also want to thank Councilman Robinson. I've had a chance to talk to him, and I value him. He's a former police officer, and he has really schooled me in the value of a citizen review board, and I thank you for your advice on this, and I think it's a good step. I think it's balanced. I appreciate your amendment, Councilwoman O'Brien, and with that, I'll be happy to vote yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guardado?
Thank you, Mayor. So just a couple comments. First, I just want to thank our city manager, Jeff, Lori, Ginger, all of you guys that have been working on this around the clock for the last couple of years. Thank you guys for all of your hard work and working with all of us. This has been an ongoing process for a little bit over 4 years, I want to say. And I just want to say that the formation of the Office of Accountability and Transparency was and always has been driven by our unwavering commitment to fostering a strong bond between the police of Phoenix and our people of Phoenix and our police department. It is imperative that the public has confidence in their police force and believes that they are being treated fairly, with dignity and respect. The Office of Accountability and Transparency is designed to provide a direct channel for community feedback and concerns. OAT serves as a testament to our belief that open communication, transparency, and accountability are the cornerstones of building trust and understanding within our community. While OAT might not be everything we hoped it would be in the beginning of this process, because of actions of the state legislature, by providing an additional avenue for dialogue, we aim to demonstrate that the police department's dedication to serving the community with the highest level of integrity and professionalism. We owe this to our police department, to our police officers, to have another tool that we can use to bring community and police together and to be able to give that voice to our community that needs to be heard. And I want to thank once again everyone for all of their hard work, for everything that everyone has done to get us to this moment, and I will be voting yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Hodge-Washington.
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. I am actually torn, and I wanted to speak a little bit to my colleague about my concerns about the amendment. I think this is more than a friendly amendment. I think this is a significant change on who can serve on the Civilian Review Board. And for us to do it at this juncture without community feedback, I am a little concerned about that. I am also concerned that one of the criticism that I have heard regarding the Civilian Review Board is that we are taking it away from certain members of the community that are, and I think those that have had an experience or filed a claim with PD, right or wrong, should not just be summarily dismissed. They bring a unique perspective, and if the goal of the Civilian Review Board is to see how we can make more positive change towards our community, I don't think we should necessarily just outright dismiss those individuals. I get it that we're in the middle of a DOJ investigation and we want to ensure that this is not being used for personal agenda. However, there are other ways I believe that we can make those safeguards to ensure that the information is protected versus summarily just dismissing individuals from being able to serve on this board. We have adequate safeguards, I believe, in the actual ordinance as written. For example, the members of the board have to be approved by 2/3 of this council. I think that is one way in which we do that. I do not believe that it is appropriate to just summarily say that because you filed a claim, and it doesn't articulate what level of claim that could be. What if that person has a claim against the police department because of an auto accident? that person possibly could not serve on the Civilian Review Board. I understand what we're trying to do here, but I think the language as proposed, I have some qualms with it, so I would either be voting no or have another suggestion on how we move forward. And one of the suggestions, I think, is ensuring that all members of the board have equal access to information if they believe additional supplemental information is necessary. It could be subject to the same as Section 20-15, subsection D, which would require all five voting members to vote in favor of any item requiring action, including any request for supplemental information. That way we ensure that all members of the Civilian Review Board have the same information, and we make sure that it is a majority decision on what information is required. So I just wanted to put that on the record and ask that my colleagues consider some of the comments that I have raised regarding this issue. It is not to say I disagree in an entirety. I just think that there are other ways to do this. But we want to make sure that the Civilian Review Board serves its purpose. And I think ignoring or omitting those individuals that have had an experience with our police department are not necessarily summarily dismissed. I've had, as part of the the Department of Justice town halls, I have met individuals who have had experience with our law enforcement, and not all individuals are what I believe this is trying to stop, what they believe to be bitter individuals, or there are some people who are just vested in actually making this a better experience, and I think we don't want to summarily dismiss those experiences. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to voice my concerns.
Thank you. Before we go on to more general comments, does anyone want to react to Councilwoman Hunt Washington's comment? Okay. And I'm sorry, with Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the Councilwoman. I do believe that, you know, this version is already very watered down, and as much as I want to support this, and as much as I want to be part of making this happen, this has been in the works for over 4 years. I just think that it's also very sudden to bring this language in for, you know, many of us haven't had a chance to really process this, so I'm not sure if we are willing to change this language around just to address some of these concerns.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Mayor.
Councilwoman Pastor.
This is Councilwoman Pastor. I'm not actually, I'm in a, I entered when Councilwoman Hodge Washington was speaking at the very beginning. I don't know what has been proposed. So I can wait till the end where I can hear everybody and then make comments.
Wonderful. Why don't we pause for a second and perhaps could the city clerk share the proposal?
Yes, Mayor. The current motion on the floor is for item 50 to be approved with a amendment to section 20-14A1 stating all voting members shall either reside or work in the city of Phoenix. Members must be at least 21 years of age. No current or former sworn law enforcement officers or an individual who has filed a claim or lawsuit related to actions by the City of Phoenix Police Department is eligible to serve as a voting member of the board. And we currently have a motion and a second, and that was a friendly amendment introduced by Councilwoman O'Brien, which was accepted by both the maker of the motion and the second.
Thank you. I'm going to hold my comments until I can get onto WebEx. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you. Can we just get a few examples of who then would not be able to be part of this board? Just so that it could just put it in context for everyone and for Councilwoman Pastor.
Mayor and members of council, I think we would have to do, we would have to look to see if the item is that no person or, you know, that has been a party to a lawsuit or a claim against, made against, that had an action against the Phoenix Police, we would have to do a search.
So we can't give concrete examples then?
Without doing that search, I don't know of particularly what names the council had in mind.
Then I would recommend that we don't accept these changes just because we're about to vote on a big item. And either we continue the item so we can get briefed on what this means for folks that will be part of the board, or we remove the language. That would be my recommendation.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Councilwoman Guerrero, are you looking for names or examples?
I'm talking about, yes, examples of people. I mean, and I want to hear it from the attorney, right? Examples, given the language, examples of who could not be part of this board.
I apologize, Mayor, members of council. So, council member, to answer your question, this would be any named individual. So, for instance, if someone was shot by police, if that person had survived, or if their family members made a claim against the city related to actions by Phoenix Police, that might be an example of persons who would not be eligible under this provision.
It's just for folks dealing with issues with the police department, or is it issues citywide?
No, my understanding is it's just related to actions involving the Phoenix Police Department. So that might also be a use of force. If somebody had a claim in an arrest, they had an injury during that arrest, and they made a claim or a lawsuit against the city, then that person would not be able to be on the board.
Okay, so issues just with the police department, correct? Not
Correct.
any other department?
Correct.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on Councilwoman Gardo's question, because as written, it says, who has filed a claim or a lawsuit related to actions by the City of Phoenix Police Department. And I gave the example of a car accident. What happens if this person, because the way I read this, tell me if I'm wrong, if there was a vehicle accident involving a police officer, and under our, the way that cases are pled, you normally name the husband and the wife in this. And one of those members of the marriage decided they wanted to apply for this. They've technically filed a claim or lawsuit related to action from the police officer by the police department. Under this revision or amendment, this person would not be able to serve. Am I correct?
Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Hodge Washington, I would interpret it that way.
Thank you. And my understanding of the intent of this amendment, it seems twofold, and so Councilwoman O'Brien can clarify. It is more so to prohibit what I would consider a fishing expedition or a search for additional information to support their potential claims against the City of Phoenix Police Department. And two, if this person may have a negative personal agenda that goes derogatory towards the police department. Are those the intent of the amendment?
That would be correct.
And I continue to advocate that there are additional ways for us in which we can do that without necessarily creating an entire universe of individuals that cannot serve on the Civilian Review Board.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
So, and I understand and appreciate Councilwoman Hodge Washington's alternative. However, right or wrong, we have also, excluded an entire group of civilians who have law enforcement background. So once a law officer leaves the police department, like our colleague Councilman Robinson, after a certain amount of time, he is no longer a law enforcement person. He is a civilian. However, we have excluded all of those people as well from serving on the Civilian Review Board. So in addition to those items that Councilwoman Hodge Washington said, I'm looking to provide balance on our Civilian Review Board by having no group on the fringes available to be on the council, the Civilian Review Board.
And if I could respond to that comment, that's why I led with my initial comment where I said this is more, in my opinion, than a friendly amendment. The provision regarding current or former sworn law enforcement inability to serve on the Civilian Review Board was specifically sent out to our community, and we had no feedback or any comments regarding that. versus we're adding now, expanding the universe of individuals that are unable to serve, and that's where my concerns come from, is that I think this is more than a friendly amendment. It is a material change, in my opinion, on who can serve, and I think the community should be given the opportunity to chime in before we as council members make a determination on this.
Thank you. Councilman Robinson.
Mayor, thank you. You know, I appreciate the conversation that's taking place right now, and I understand where everybody is coming from, but what I would like to do is offer up what I think is what's most important here. What's most important is that we are able to seat a civilian review board, excuse me, that is accepted, not wholly, not completely, by both sides. And the best way for us to do that is by not having the perception that someone sitting on the board is going to lean one way or another prior to understanding the facts. And I understand. Councilwoman O'Brien said it, I think, very well with regard to a former police officer. I've been gone for over 8 years. Things have changed. Could I sit back and render an opinion that is fair and unbiased? I believe I could. But that perception by a lot of people would be that, no, there's no way possible that I would be able, that would be possible on my part. So I get it. I get where everybody's coming from. But I think what's on the floor right now, in the friendly amendment, is the right direction to go. It provides us with a mechanism that would be in place that I believe where both sides, not everybody is happy, and I think that tells us something. That tells us that it's not leaning one way or another, and I think that should be the goal, is for us to seat individuals who are going to be right in the middle, and when they hear the information, they'll make a decision based on that. So, Mayor, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Is there a way to tailor the language a little bit? Because I think it's not meant to be someone who was trying to get a police report for a car accident. Yes, Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I just kind of did this on the fly, so it may not be the fully vetted, but one of my suggestions in ensuring that, one, we want to make sure that all members of it, like I mentioned, of the Civilian Review Board would have access to the same level of information, and that all members of the Civilian Review Board have a say in what is actually, if any supplemental information is requested. My suggestion or my proposal would be to section 20-15, subsection D, and it would read, 5 voting members of the board shall constitute a quorum for the purpose of conducting business, and 5 voting members must vote in favor of any item requiring action, comma, including any request for supplemental information. So that prohibits one person from going rogue and receiving information specific to their case. You now would have 5 members of the Civilian Review Board saying this information is what we all want to see in order to make a determination. And if that's what we're trying to prevent, is that someone on the Civilian Review Board would use this as a fishing expedition, they now have to explain to their colleagues on this board why this information is important, and then get their consent to request that information. So, like I said, I was trying to acknowledge what the intent was of the provision, of the amendment from my colleague, and that was that's what I think would serve the purpose, without necessarily changing the impact of, without changing significantly changing the contents and the composition of the Civilian Review Board.
Mayor,
Councilwoman O'Brien.
It does part of it. It does not take away the factor of you having somebody who could have an agenda or a perceived agenda, which is by keeping somebody not on the Civilian Review Board. I don't have a problem. I understand what this does achieve, and I do like this language, because I think it is important for the board to have that kind of checks and balance as well. But it does not preclude somebody, as Councilman Robinson was saying, from being on there that could be perceived as having a negative agenda on the other side of this scale or spectrum.
But we already have, my response to that would be that we already have mechanisms in place under the draft ordinance that would address that, to ensure that we don't, in order for anyone to serve on the Civilian Review Board, 2/3 of this city council has to approve it. And I'm thinking there is that negative perception, there will not be 2/3 vote from this council. And I think what we are doing here is exactly what we don't want individuals to do when it comes to our police department. We don't want people to presume that our police department is biased towards itself, but yet we are presuming that anyone who has ever filed a claim against the police department could not serve in a neutral manner on the Civilian Review Board. I just don't believe that we should automatically remove somebody who has valuable experience in dealing with these types of, in this situation, from the conversation. And I also think it goes back to, for me, now we are adding an entire group of people who cannot serve on the Civilian Review Board just outright without any consideration as to who that person is and what kind of influence or impact they could make. I had the pleasure of, as part of one of my roundtables I did with Chief Sullivan, of meeting an individual who has had a negative experience with our police department, and he is wanting to figure, he got up there and he said he doesn't have any ill will against the police department. He just wants to see how he can work to make it better. And under the scenario that we are presenting, this individual could never serve on the Civilian Review Board. So I feel strongly about this, and that's why I chose to articulate my position on this. I get where you're coming from. I respect that wholeheartedly. But I feel it within my conscience that I have to explain what it is that we are, what that language has the net effect of doing. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilman Waring and then Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you. So if this was considered a jury and the prosecutor was doing jury selection like they do in John Grisham novels and so forth, and they found out the person who's a potential juror is suing the police department that arrested the perpetrator in my fictional example, there's no way they'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds fine, they're gonna be unbiased. There's no way. So we're acting like with 1.7 million or 1.6 million or whatever it is Phoenicians, we're gonna run out because we won't be able to find somebody who's not suing the police department, so we better make sure everybody's eligible. You know what, if people are that determined to serve on a board or commission, we can find something else for them to do. They don't necessarily have to serve on this. I just think at some point this is well written, and I don't think it's an unreasonable ask, particularly since we're excluding other people that we're saying would be by definition be biased, which I don't think is necessarily fair to them either. So I'm definitely supportive of the amendment and would reevaluate my support for all of this if it was taken away. Of course, part of my support is predicated on the idea that it doesn't really do anything. I think OAT has spent millions, and I think they put out 1, maybe 2 reports. I'm trying to think, and I'll think hard about this, what has changed because of those reports? Anything? Those are expensive reports. I know we all have to pay a lot for copies when you go in for public records or whatever, but they're not that expensive. So I guess ultimately, I don't know that anything's going to change because we've got a civilian review board. I think we're going to have plenty of people applying who aren't suing the police department that could be selected. And I don't expect this to change a whole lot, given how much we're spending for it, ultimately in the long run, regardless, because of the state legislature's action. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I will go to Councilwoman Pastor, and then I have a comment.
Yes, this question is for Julie. Julie, can you give me examples of people who have filed against PD? I don't need names. I want to know examples of those that would not qualify or be able to apply for OAT.
Mayor, members of council, so again, I think examples would be those that have made claims or sued if they are involved in an auto accident, if there's been use of force, or which may or may not include a shooting. And in that case, also sometimes then family members might make a claim or that would be against the police department.
Okay, and I have a bigger question, and I'll get into it. We had protesting going on, and this is why DOJ is here. And protesting went on, and the police department decided to file gang charges on them. And they're probably in the middle of a class action right now. and they have had experience with the police and the dynamics and would have a valid voice, would they be precluded from this?
Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Pastor, yes, we also have some lawsuits that do involve amendment, first, violation of First Amendment, sorry, that those may also be precluded.
Okay, well, I was part of one of the original council people that felt very strongly that there needed to be an office of accountability and transparency. And there was a lot of work that went into us. And there was very, very hard work, tore up pieces. And there was a reason why law enforcement was not involved sitting on this board. And it was because of PSB. Because they would be able to have the opportunity to, on our city side, be able to go through that process. And they have a whole office, they have a whole piece that goes along. And the Office of Accountability and Transparency was really a community voice coming up and wanting to say, we want to have a neutral space to be able to file or to be able to look at cases that we felt were not in line with policy. And so I find this, I actually find it insulting to me, of those that worked on this, to have a conversation as to saying, okay, what was the background and why was this not part of it? I understanding those wanting to advocate for law enforcement to sit on there. And as much as we want to claim we wouldn't have bias in our career, there is bias. We're human, and everything is subjective. So I'm not in line with the friendly amendment. And I just think I'm just kind of taken back. Thank you.
Thank you. To me, OAT has done very important work. They issued just 4 reports just last week. It has been analysis that has helped me, and the department has made changes in response to the reports. I have found it thoughtful and have gathered, it's an opportunity to gather best practices from across the country. There's not one tool that solves public safety problems. We need multiple tools in the toolbox. OAT is important. The Civilian Review Board is important, but none of it is sufficient, and we have to keep working towards best practices. So I appreciate the work that OAT is doing. The model that OAT is based on is often called a review model, where civilians look at and review the actions of the police department. As I understand it, it is the most popular model across the country. It is not our first choice, but it is still very valuable in doing important work. Trying to understand, it seems that all council members have really valid points here, and I'm trying to see what is a good path forward. One possibility is there are areas that OAT has mandatory oversight on, such as in-custody deaths. It does not have mandatory oversight over car accidents, so is there a way that folks who have active litigation over areas where OAT has mandatory oversight would not be on the board? So we might exclude people involved in active litigation, but then folks who have been involved in car accidents could be on there. So it would maybe a melding of Councilwoman O'Brien and Councilwoman Hodge-Washington's, where we would not have individuals who are involved in areas that OAT has mandatory oversight on.
And can you?
So page 422, section 20-6.
Mayor, would you like me to read that section?
I think that would be very valuable.
So, Mayor, members of council, the OAT has mandatory review over any shooting involving uniformed personnel, whether duty-related or not, any in-custody death, or any duty-related incident during which or as a result of which anyone dies or suffers serious bodily injury, as that term is defined in ARS 13-10539, as it may be amended from time to time.
Can I respond to your suggestion, Mayor?
Please, Councilwoman.
I think trying to, at this juncture, modify the language still, for me, offends one of my principles, that we are excluding a group that with an opportunity, without presenting an opportunity to the community. With all due respect to Councilman O'Brien, I do not believe it's a friendly amendment, and I would prefer that it would be stricken from its entirety. I think the fact that we had 0 public comments about this item at today's meeting, which is a little surprising to me, means at a minimum the community has reviewed this and finds it passable, and for us now to then change our course in a significant manner, I still continue to have trouble with it. So I honestly wouldn't want my revision or what I propose to be presented, because the public hasn't had an opportunity to chime in on it. I think I think we don't want to engage in any conduct that would undermine the public's confidence in this board and in what it lies. I mean, it has been an issue for some time. It has been an area where I believe that we have to get it right, and I think by getting it right means also when we present something to them, we don't come on the last minute and change and say who is available to serve and what that looks like. I think my preference would be for us to vote up and down as presented, and then if we have any subsequent revisions later on, we ask staff to make that proposal based on the considerations, and we come back with it. That would be my preference, but I'm just one member on this council, and that would be how I would prefer to proceed.
Mayor?
Councilwoman O'Brien.
I'm open to that
Okay.
change to limit the folks there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Could I add one more thing? I apologize.
Yes, Councilwoman O'Brien, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Guardado.
And my community did provide feedback, and they find the fact that we cannot have not law enforcement, because I do not believe law enforcement folks belong on a civilian review board, but have people who had previously been law enforcement, they find that unacceptable part of this. So this is a way to compromise and move this forward, and I do think it's important that we do that.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. Given the conversation that we're having, I would like to make a secondary motion to strike the friendly amendment.
So you would move up, okay, so,
I would remove whatever.
okay.
We would
So
do
it would be
everything?
it would be a motion to approve as introduced? Is that what it'd be?
No.
Correct, Mayor, members of council. So you're making a substitute motion to approve the ordinance as written
As is.
without changes.
Right. All right.
And I would second that.
Okay. So just refresher for folks who don't come to every council meeting, we will first vote on Councilwoman Guardado's motion, and then we would vote. If that passes, that carries. If it does not pass, we would then vote on Councilman Robinson's motion. All right. Any
Mayor?
addition- Councilwoman Pastor.
Yes, I have some questions to staff. The questions are, is that necessarily, we were told the reason why we were cleaning up out was because we wanted to be in compliance with state law. Am I correct?
Mayor, members of council, so Councilmember Pastor, one of the reasons that we were making changes to the existing sections in Chapter 20 were to come into compliance with state law.
Yes, But my question now is, there's a lot of ordinances that we have that state law has passed and are not in compliances and are still on our books. So I guess my question to you, Julie, is who asked you to change this?
Mayor, members of council, so we, because we were coming back with changes to Chapter 20 to add the Civilian Review Board, we also proposed making those changes since it was coming back to comply with state law.
Okay, let me get even further down to the question since you're not answering it. Who did you work with on council to change these amendments and change this ordinance?
Mayor, members of council, I did not work with any specific council member to make the changes to sections 20-1 through 20-13.
Okay, who did you work with on all of the ordinance? Who did you get advisement from on the board, on the council?
Mayor, members of council, so one of the council offices had worked on the board language, but all of the changes to section 20-2013 came, from the law department and then from review after the policy meeting. But the new language, we had worked with all the council offices on those language, and we put through an ordinance review with the law department to make sure that the language was consistent with other sections of the code.
I guess where I'm going at is the whole intent of OAT was also to bring trust to the community, and that the community wanted a avenue of a place where they could file any complaint, or even police. Police can file a complaint because the intent of OAT was also to protect the police and have these processes into play in order to also protect the police and be able to get a second eyes or second look on it on OAT. I am struggling with this and what is happening to OAT. And not understanding how this came about. I understand when we were setting up our board, but I definitely know, and I will not publicly say, but I definitely know staff worked with members from the specifically worked with members to change some of this language. And that is fine. But I feel like I think there needs to be a bigger conversation as to who's gonna, in changing that friendly amendment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I understand the concern Councilwoman O'Brien has, is that we right now say no current or former sworn law officer is eligible to serve as a voting member. And I know there's a concern that in the state of Arizona, I'm sure a lot of the different police departments know others that serve on one or another department. And so I get that concern, but I mean, if we want to be fair and we say take out the individual who's filed a claim, why can't we have some kind of law enforcement and perhaps have no current or former sworn law enforcement who served in the state of Arizona? I think my neighbor is a former New York City police officer, and He's been retired for many a year, and, but he doesn't really know anyone in Arizona. But I'm trying to find a way, because I think we need to move forward. We need to get something done. But I want to be sensitive that we really are trying to represent the entire city. And, I mean, by excluding law enforcement, you're excluding a lot of the public who does support law enforcement. So maybe there's some way we could compromise there. I don't know, but I do want to see us move forward.
We'll go to Councilman Galindo Alvera.
Thank you, Mayor. I have appreciated the robust conversation by members of the council, and for once I've been quiet and listened. And I'm not torn. I know what to do, because I came prepared to vote on the resolution or on the ordinance before us, because that's what I've talked to residents and constituents about. And to make a change on it means that I didn't share it with them. And it makes me feel like I didn't do my job well. And I want to do my job well, and I want to represent the people that I represent well. So I am going to support Councilwoman Guardado's substitute motion.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Robinson?
Mayor, thank you very much. You know, I don't know that a whole lot of folks did as much work on this issue as I did in my office. I feel strongly about this. You know, police officers and police departments get their strength, get their power, get their authority from the public. And it's never going to be, as I stated earlier, it's never going to be a complete acceptance by everybody. I think the information has been put forward. I believe very strongly that the motion that has been made, and I'm comfortable with the friendly amendment, is the right direction to go. I've lived in this community since 1974. I was with the Phoenix Police Department since December of 1980. I've worked throughout this entire community on all kinds of issues, and I think it's important as we move forward, and that was mentioned by several folks, that we do need to move forward. I think it's important for us to have a body in this review board that has what I think the credibility, it has the perception of being unbiased. And I think we get there, I truly believe we get there, by not having folks from one extreme or the other extreme, somebody who is completely and totally in favor of and in love with the police, and somebody who is not completely and totally in hate with the police. I think when you have those, for lack of a better word, when you have those extremes, you're not going to get anywhere. I think we need to move forward. I think we need to, and for all the right reasons, have this review board in place. Phoenix has always been at the cutting edge of citizen community involvement. Citizens, residents have sat on the use of force and disciplinary review boards since 1983. It's been expanded. We have, as an organization and as a city, the law enforcement, the police department, and the city have always listened to the public when things have happened and always responded. I see us getting there by moving forward with this civilian review board. And I think the information that has been provided, the friendly amendment, I get it, I understand, because what it does, it makes sure that one side isn't, you know, the scales aren't tilted in one way or another. So, Mayor, with the experience that I have and the research that has been done, I just think this is a good way to move us forward for a board that does not have investigative abilities. It's a review and recommend. And I think we're able to do that. I think there are some folks who, regardless of how we look at it, are going to feel one way or another. And if we can take that element out of the process, I think we're better off for it. So I go back to the original recommendation, the original motion, and I thank you for your time, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
I guess I just wanted to say a couple things. I I'm not saying here I don't want the Civilian Review Board to move forward, but I want us to also remember this is called the Civilian Review Board. So there are other boards where we're required to have a certain number of law enforcement officials. So what I'm saying is not meant to be anti-law enforcement. What I'm saying is let's keep, again, this was not shared with the community. And we are now excluding a group of people who we weren't excluding before. I am concerned with the timing of this. When you talk about being one-sided, I think we run the same risk of our credibility being questioned if we start making the Civilian Review Board a place where we are appointing, or we're saying that if you've ever had a claim against law enforcement, you could never serve on here. And that's not, unfortunately, that may be some civilians' experience. And that's an experience that we should not just summarily dismiss because we are presuming that this person won't be biased. I mean, it's no different than saying anyone that has ever been a police officer will always side with law enforcement. And I have heard my colleagues and other members from the police department say that police officers are the ones that judge themselves the hardest, right? So why are we making the same assumption against somebody who has had a claim? Why are we not using that as an opportunity to learn from that person who's had a claim against the city and determine how we can become better? That's where my objection comes from. And I think that if this was such an important issue, it should have been briefed and circulated with all of us prior to today on the dais. We should have all had some feedback in that and had some conversation. I respectfully, I understand the motive, but I continue to believe that it's not a friendly amendment. It is a material change to our ordinance as presented, and I don't think it is fair to make that on the cusp at this juncture for something that is so important. The Civilian Review Board has been a flashpoint for this city for some time as to why we need it, and I think we should make sure we do it the right way. So I will now let you speak, Mayor.
Wonderful, thank you. Throughout the time we have debated these issues, one of the things that a majority of the council has said is that we want this board to be fair. We want people who can look at what is at the best of the community. We do not want someone who sees only one side of an issue, whether it is that law enforcement is always right or that law enforcement can never be trusted. We want folks who understand the complexity. The majority of the council has said, we value law enforcement. We think they are essential to a safe and successful community, but we acknowledge we don't always get it right, and we want to learn from it. So I think throughout this debate, council member after council member, not unanimously, but a majority has said, we want a body that is fair. Councilman Robinson makes a very strong point. We want this to be a body that can make change and that people on multiple sides of the issue will respect. If it is seen as something that only is captured by one segment, it will not be as meaningful to community safety. Very important to understand that people who have strong opinions can still present before this body. So people who have been in law enforcement will have opportunities to share their perspective, as well as people who are currently in law enforcement. The body will also hear from individuals who have lost loved ones or have been deeply impacted by decisions from the Phoenix Police Department. Their perspectives will have a chance to be heard, and it will influence the outcome. The idea is picking people to serve on it who can hear and support all perspectives and respond to it. So I think with the amendment, with two now amendments to Councilwoman O'Brien's, that seems to make sense to me. It is very now narrowly tailored to very specific incidents, but the vast majority of folks can still, who are civilians, serve. So I will be supporting the second motion, which was made first. So Councilwoman O'Brien, yes.
Sorry, Mayor, will you clarify what the two motions are exactly, please?
So first we vote to support it as introduced, which is Councilwoman Guardado's motion. and then we would vote on the motion so that folks who have Section 26 complaints in front of the city would not be on the board. Is that right? Denise? Maybe I should have Denise.
Mayor, the current motion on the table is a substitute motion, and that is for approval of the ordinance and this item as recommended by staff. The original motion that was made by Councilmember Robinson and seconded by Councilwoman Stark was to approve as recommended by staff, but also include a friendly amendment from Councilwoman O'Brien that regarding Section 20-14A1, and that included that all voting members shall either reside or work in the city of Phoenix. Members must be 21 years of age. No current or former sworn law enforcement officers or an individual who has filed a claim or lawsuit related to actions by the City of Phoenix Police Department is eligible to serve as a voting member of the board. And that's what I have for that first motion, which was accepted.
I understood it differently. So I'm glad that Councilman O'Brien asked.
Right, so I guess I wanted clarification because was your request?
I had thought you had accepted it, but perhaps.
I did accept
Okay, and
it,
then
so I
did
guess-
Councilwoman the second made and Councilman Robinson also accepted it?
May I clarify, Mayor? The acceptance that we just talked about, is that for Councilwoman O'Brien's friendly amendment, or was that friendly amendment for Councilwoman Hodge Washington?
I think it was the one from the mayor to accept the 20-6, right? The mandatory
Right.
oversight by the OAT.
So trying to be, to take into account Councilwoman Pastor's comments that folks who were involved in protests should be able to serve on this, and Councilman Hodge Washington's comments that folks involved in car accidents should be able to serve on this.
Okay.
It was hopefully to really trying to listen to what colleagues had said and meet multiple goals. Councilman Waring.
Mayor.
Me, still?
We'll go to
Okay.
Councilman Waring and
Thank
then
you. I
Councilwoman
appreciate
Pastor.
it. Okay, so the first vote, Mayor and Denise, is Betty's motion. The second vote is the, at least theoretically, kumbaya bringing together of the amendment and the original motion. So if Betty's thing passes, we never vote on the amendment. That never got said, so we kept talking like there was going to be a second vote a little bit. Not you, Mayor, but just generally, people might have gotten confused by that. I was pretty sure I knew, but I want to make sure. So if this first vote passes, then the amendment isn't worth the paper it's written on. It would only be if that fails that we get a crack at the second.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Yes, I'm still a little confused as to what the first motion is. I know, Mayor, you,
So the
We're
first in order of voting would be to approve as introduced.
no, I understand that, but what does the amendment? Is it your amendment? Is it O'Brien's amendment? Hodge Washington's? There were several conversations. So what is this, the first one? I mean, the original motion.
Okay, so the one that was made first in the order of the meeting but would be voted on second would now be all voting members shall either reside or work in the city of Phoenix. Members must be at least 21 years of age, no current or former sworn law enforcement officer or individual who has filed a claim or lawsuit related to the actions by the City of Phoenix Police Department mentioned in Section 20-6, mandatory oversight, is eligible to serve as a voting member of the board. Councilman O'Brien, did we get that right? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to roll call on Councilwoman Guardado. Unless everyone's happy with that one, we'll go to Councilman Guardado's motion. Okay, roll call.
Galindo Elvira? Guardado?
Yes.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien?
No.
Pastor?
Yes.
Robinson?
No.
Waring? No. Stark?
No.
Gallego?
No.
Fails 4-5.
Now we go to roll call on the motion originally made by Councilman Robinson. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira?
Please do. Can you turn on your microphone?
I'm really disappointed. Yeah, I'm really disappointed today because this is not the ordinance that I came prepared to vote for, or the one that I discussed with constituents. I feel blindsided. I want there to be a civilian review board. It's important for transparency. It's important for the public to build trust with law enforcement. And I'm happy to vote on the original, but I can't vote one with the substitution like this, so I vote no.
Guardado.
Mayor, can I explain my vote?
Please do.
I'm also going to be voting no. We have gone round and round for many years around OAT, around Civilian Review Board, around what this means for our police department, for our community. I think, Chief, you've done a wonderful job since you've come here and done all the changes that you have done in our police department, and I'm grateful to you for that. But we also owe it to our community. This was not something easy for the community to accept with all the changes that had to be done because of the changes that have happened at the state level. And I think it's irresponsible for us to change the ordinance. The community was trusting in us, and it was evident that the reason people didn't show up today is because they trusted what we were voting on is what they saw this morning and yesterday. And I think I owe it to them. I owe it to our police department. I am going to be voting no.
Hodge Washington.
Before I cast my vote, I actually have a clarifying question.
Please do.
And I guess this question is for Julie. I want to understand, because I feel like this is not the right process for us to be making a determination such as this. And I want to understand who can bring a motion for reconsideration if this motion passes.
Mayor, members of council, so only a member on the losing side can, prevailing side can bring a motion for reconsideration.
And if you're on the prevailing side, do you need the support of others that were also on the prevailing side, or can you get the support of those that were on the other side as well?
Mayor and members of council, so it only takes one that is on the prevailing side to file for a motion for reconsideration to have it come back on another agenda.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I will go ahead and explain my vote. I will vote yes, simply so that I can be on the prevailing side. Based on what I have heard here in the conversation, it seems that I will, the concerns that I have are going to be struck, but our rules allow for us to make a motion for reconsideration, and I would like to come back with language that I believe with in consultation with all of my colleagues in order to present something that addresses all of our concerns. So I will be voting yes for that purpose.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Can I explain my vote?
Please do.
I actually think that that was a wise decision on Councilwoman Hodge Washington. And I'm just kind of taken back by all of this, and I don't have any words right now, but the fact that we're in the middle of a world crisis and there is war going on, and that there are people protesting on campuses on both sides, and the protests are only going to get louder and louder, and who sweeps in and this doesn't build trust amongst the community, I guess is where I'm getting at. And with these protests going on and who comes in and starts to remove protesters, it's only going to get bigger. And this was supposed to advance us. The Civilian Review Board would advance us with Councilwoman Guardado's amendment, but this doesn't advance us. And that was the whole purpose of Office of Accountability and Transparency. And I understand the moves that are being made and why they're being made, but this doesn't set well in the community on trust of those that don't trust the police. So I'm a no.
Robinson? Waring?
Mayor, can I ask a clarifying question, follow-up?
Please do.
Question. So Denise, for a motion to reconsider, it's going to pass if it gets the votes, and then it'll just have passed. I don't know that I've ever seen that and bringing it back.
Councilmember Waring, I apologize. So a reconsideration request can be filed by a council member with the city clerk within 7 business days following the original action, which would have been today. In terms of trying to reconsider it here, in this particular case, it depends. The council could vote to reconsider an item unless the ordinance failed to pass, but in that case, then that would be like a completely separate motion. So it was my understanding then for Councilwoman Hodge Washington that you would be filing potentially a reconsideration with the city clerk, is that correct?
That is my intention based on the vote.
Does that make sense then, Councilmember Waring? So if it passes today, then the councilwoman could submit a reconsideration to the city clerk and then it would be brought back in front of the council for another vote.
All right, I'm going to vote yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 6-3.
Thank you. Thank you to many individuals who worked long and did a lot of research studying best practices from all over the country so that we could add another tool to public safety in Phoenix. That is our final agendized item. Want to briefly pause before we go to public comment to congratulate Chief Connolly, who will be leaving Phoenix Police and serving as the police chief in Flagstaff. Congratulations. Now I'll turn to our city attorney to introduce the final portion.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Thank you. We'll begin with Diane Barker, followed by Nicole Rodriguez.
It's Global Love Day. You can check it out May 1st. Some of you may remember Jimi Hendrix and, yes, Mayor Kate and Galindo Elvira, District 7. My name's Diane Barker, and I'm here to spread the Global Love Day. We are very fortunate to be people of peace, but we're experiencing over 30 universities or near that are protesting. We have war in the United States this way. And there are people that are in my peer group, although I really relate and dance in the same beat with 20-year-olds, but people might remember the 60s. This is a rendition of it, not exactly the same thing, but the thing is, on Global Love Day, it is a proclamation, it is a real day, May 1st. Go out, you care about somebody, let them know you love them, and have them share that same idea with somebody else. I love you, Phoenix.
Nicole.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to start off by thanking Councilwoman Hodge Washington for your comments on the Civilian Review Board and spearheading the conversations. Also, thank you, Council Robinson, for nominating a woman, and a smart woman at that, to the Vision Zero Advisory Board. But I want to quickly go into what I'm here today to discuss, and that's on the reverse lanes. Phoenix thrives on connection, but outdated reverse lanes on the 7th Street and 7th Avenue continue to divide our communities. I launched the End the Reverse Lane campaign summer 2023 to dismantle these relics and revitalize our communities. These lanes are a menace. They force detours, isolate residents, and cripple local businesses, the lifeblood of our economy. Lost revenue threatens their survival. Thanks to these outdated relics that prioritize speeding cars over vibrant communities, we need a healthy environment for small businesses, not a highway bypass. Furthermore, these lanes are a slap in the face to Phoenix's progressive vision. Initiatives like Vision Zero and the Climate Action Plan strive for safer, sustainable streets. Reverse lanes stand in defiant opposition, creating a divided urban core and weakening our economy. These lanes are not just inconvenient, they're dangerous. They force detours, like I said before, that hinder emergency response times when unable to efficiently access a safe left turn access point. Additionally, school bus routes become more complex, increasing travel times, jeopardizing the safety of our children with unnecessary emissions. Adding insult to injury, they violate traffic control standards and require expensive, ineffective upgrades, hence digital signs. We don't want them. This misallocation of resources takes away from the communities most impacted, being District 4. Studies show minimal traffic flow benefits in urban cores, or they don't have benefits in urban cores with reverse lanes. The solution is pretty clear. It's time to remove them. This action is long overdue. Together with your support through the Phoenix Complete Street Policy, we can end the reverse lanes in them, not try to accommodate them with signs that are digital in them, which don't belong in any city, especially a vibrant city like ours. So let's reunite our communities, revitalize businesses, and create a more livable Phoenix. It's time to ditch the reverse lanes and embrace a future where our streets connect us, not divide us. Thank you.
Thank you. That is our final speaker. We are adjourned.
Hey Detroit, while you're catching snowflakes, we're catching sun rays.
For Phoenix residents, visit Phoenix.gov/summer.
Is it ice? Do they use this for ice? It's called an ice cream. Oh, it's called an ice cream!